जय ओम विष्णुपाद परिवंशकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शीला प्रभुपाद की, इसका फाउंडर आचार्य शीला प्रभुपाद की, नम आचार्य शीला हरिदास ठाकुर की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद भागवतम की. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So welcome to the morning Bhagavatam class. So we are reading the verse from Canto 3, chapter 26, the fundamental principles of material nature, and text number 17. Please repeat with me. Prakrute Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 17. Prakriter guna samyasya nirvishesasya manavi chesta yata sa bhagavan kala iti upalakshita. Prakriter guna samyasya nirvishesasya manavi chesta yata sa bhagavan kala iti upalakshita. Prakrite guna samyasya nirvishesasya manavi chesta yata sa bhagavan kala iti upalakshita. Prabhuji. Prakrite guna samyasya nirvishesasya manavi chesta yata sa bhagavan kala iti upalakshita. Prakrite guna samyasya nirvishesasya manavi chesta yata sa bhagavan kala iti upalakshita. So word to word meaning. Prakriti of material nature, guna samyasya without interaction of three moods, nirvishesasya without specific qualities, manavi O daughter of Manu, chesta movement, yata from whom, sa he, Bhagavan the Supreme Personality of Godhead, kala time, iti thus, upalakshita is designated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. Please repeat with me. My dear mother, O daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, the time factor, as I have explained, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom the creation begins as a result of agitation of the neutral, unmanifested nature. Purport. The unmanifested state of material nature, pradhana, is being explained. The Lord says that when the unmanifested material nature is agitated by the glance of Supreme Personality of Godhead, it begins to manifest itself in the different ways. Before this agitation, it remains in the neutral state without interaction of three modes of material nature. In other words, material nature cannot produce any variety of manifestations without the contact of Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is very nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of the products of the material nature. Without his contact, material nature cannot produce anything. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita also, very suitable example is given in this connection. Although nipples on a goat's neck appears to be breast nipples, they do not give milk. Similarly, material nature appears to the material scientist to act and react in a wonderful manner. But in reality, it cannot act without agitator, time, who is the representation of Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the time agitates, the neutral state of material nature begins to produce varieties of manifestations. Ultimately, it is said that Supreme Personality of Godhead is the cause of creation. As a woman cannot produce children unless impregnated by a man, material nature cannot produce or manifest anything unless it is impregnated by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of the time factor. Let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanachalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatan Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Krupa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, we are continuing reading the chapter 26, the fundamental principles of material nature. And today's purport, in today's verse, Srila Prabhupada again briefly summarizing the material creation process and who is behind this material creation. Because in the modern scientists, they will have a different understanding of the material creation, but scriptures, the Srimad Bhagavatam is clearly saying who is behind this creation of material nature and universe and how it is being created. So, if you see the words, Prakrute, first three lines we can see. Prakrute guna samyasya. Prakrute means of material nature. Guna samyasya, without interaction of three modes. So, the material nature is in the beginning, it is in the Guna Samyasya state, means with the three modes of material nature are not active. They are not interacting with each other. So it means that there is no impact of three modes of material nature at the beginning of the material nature. Then it's a nirvisheshasya, so there is no material qualities. Then he's saying Manavi, he is referring to, Kapila Muni is referring to his mother Devahuti. She is a daughter of Manu. So that's why Manavi. Chesta, then the movement is coming. From whom? Yata means from whom? Sa Bhagavan. So Bhagavan is started creating the movement. Then Kala iti upalakshita. So first the material nature is in the neutral state where there are no impact of modes on the material nature. Then Bhagavan started movement, and from that moment, the material creation started. So this is the clearly summarizing. Initially, it was in a neutral state. As soon as the Bhagavan glanced at the material nature, it started beginning the and creation of all the material elements and everything. So here, one more impacted factor is Kala. The time factor is the one. As soon as the Vishnu started glancing the material world, he agitated the material world, the time factor coming into the picture in the material creation. So this is a brief summary of the today's verse. Now, so till yesterday, I think we have been understanding the total 25 elements, including time factor, the total 25 material elements, which are the key ingredients of this material creation. So, and if you see, try to from last few weeks, the many speakers are talking about the creation of the material process universe and various steps like the Pradhan, Mahatattva, and so many other things. So these are all very technical and philosophical. And if we keep repeating those words, in relation to the context of the current verse, if we keep revising, that will give us better understanding on the process. So. In the first stage is when the cosmic manifestation, 3/4 of the cosmic manifestation is spiritual world and 1/4 is material world. So this material world, the material nature, one corner of the cosmic manifestation is allocated for material creation, material universe creation. And this material creation, the material nature, before Vishnu was agitating, glancing, it's in the neutral state. That is called the Pradhana state. So the material nature is existing, and it doesn't have any impacts of 3 modes of material nature. That state is called Pradhana. So there is no that's what in the purport also it is clearly mentioning. It's a neutral state where the nature doesn't have any, they don't have any material elements created in that. So, and it is in a neutral state. Now, when that is called Pradhana state, and then when Mahavishnu lying on the casual ocean, he glancing over this material nature. Then what happens? All the living beings who are in the dormant state of the Vishnu, right? They will be impregnated in the Pradhana. And when the living entities are impregnated in the Pradhana, along with the living entities, 3 other things will be impregnated into the material nature. When this glancing is done, then the 3 things along with the living entities, 3 other things will be impregnated into the Pradhana. Those are Kala, time, and then karma of the each living entities, and then Swabhava, each of the behavior impressions which were carried forwarded from the previous life, all the impressions of the living entities will be impregnated. Jiva, his karma, his past impressions, and then the Kala. These 3 are impregnated. When this state is called, this is where Mahatattva. So the Pradhana is converted into Mahatattva. In a material analogy, how we can understand, the material nature, Prakriti is like a feminine and female, right? So we treat it. So in a normal sense also, the girls who are very young age, they are not ready for marriage, they are not ready to produce the children. But when they cross after stage, they're physically, mentally, everything, they will be ready for the marriage and producing the children, right? The beginning of the stage when they are not ready is like a Pradhana stage, and then when they got married and they are ready to produce the children, that is like a Mahatattva state. So we can understand the material analogy to understand this in a easy terminology. So when the Mahavishnu impregnates and he glances the material nature and he impregnates the living entities, the Kala, Swabhava and karma are impregnated. Now the time factor starts. This is what it is mentioning. As soon as the Vishnu glancing the material nature, time is introduced, and as the time passes, till that point of time, material modes are inactive. There is no interaction of the material modes, and there is no impact of material modes on the Prakriti. But now the time starts. Then the actual process starts, and the 3 modes starts getting interaction. Then all the material elements will be created. How? Like, so first, out of three modes of material nature, as the time passes, first mode of goodness will be predominant. And this is actually the Mahatattva state. And as time progress, then the next mode is mode of passion will be predominant in this material nature. And then after some time, mode of ignorance will be predominant. This is called Ahankara state. And in this stage, the Ahankara, the ignorance, will interact with different modes of material nature, and it will start producing the material elements. So it was like, if the Ahankara, the mode of ignorance, interact with the goodness, then it will produce Jnana Shakti, like mind. And when the passion, mode of Ahankara, the ignorance, interact with the passion, then it will produce all the Kriya Shakti, means the prana and 10 other sense elements. And then when it is a purely ignorance, then all other remaining material elements will be created. So like that, the mode of ignorance will be interacting with other modes, and all the material elements it will be from. These are all material elements, are subtle elements. These are not actually physical elements. These are like all the senses, these are ingredients to create the material universe. So this is how the Pradhana state to Mahatattva transforms, and by the glance of Supreme Personality of Mahavishnu. And then when the Mahavishnu exhales, all the universes will be coming from his body. And when this, then Garbhodakashaya Vishnu enters into that, and then Brahma comes from his lotus navel, and he starts creating the living entities. So he used all the ingredients created, like in the previous Mahatattva state, all the material sense elements and tanmatras and all the knowledge acquiring senses. He used all those things, and he will start creating living entities. Like suppose if the living entities did so many sinful activities in the previous life, then what he does, he will take all the relevant material elements like the senses, and he will create a body, and he will put him in the, either based on his karma. If he is so sinful, he will be putting into the lower planetary systems. If he is more devoted, or his mode of goodness, so he will create the senses such that he will be in the heavenly planets or in the earthly planets. This is how the whole material manifestation happens. So this is how the creation works. And in the today's per verse, the Prabhupada was briefly summarizing. This is what in the Pradhana state will be there, and it will be transformed into Mahatattva state, and from there all the material elements will be created. So this is how it's more of technical, but if we keep listening again and again, we will be understanding, and we will be remembering the process, how it works. So these, it's like in general concept with the Prakriti, material nature is there. We think that, okay, the Prakriti is creating all these different jivas on its own, but it is not. So behind that, we have a Mahavishnu is there who is glancing, and then Garbhodakashaya Vishnu who enters into each of the universe, and Kshirodakashaya Vishnu who enters into the each and every living entity as a Paramatma. These three Vishnus are there. Purushavasaras, these incarnations, expansions of Krishna are there behind the creation of material nature. It is not created on its own. It's not producing different varieties on its own. The Krishna, the Mahavishnu, the three expansions of Vishnu are there behind. Now, I was listening one of the lectures from Partha Prabhu on this verse. He was giving this verse, teaching this verse in Melbourne temple. And he explained, he took one nice material analogy to explain this material creation process, like Pradhana and Mahatattva, how we can understand. He gave one easy example, even in the lecture he was mentioning. So he took the example of making khichdi. So we make in the morning breakfast time, I think, Prabhu was mentioning it was in the morning time, he was referring to the breakfast. So suppose if you are trying to make a khichdi in the breakfast, what you need to do? You need to identify all the ingredients required to cook the khichdi, right? And first you take rice, and the next you will take all the spices, then you will take water, then you take all oil, whatever you can. So when you put everything in a vessel, so will that become a khichdi? No. Right? You need a further process. So this is the Pradhana state where you have a raw ingredients, but the manifestation of khichdi is not done yet. Right? So this is the Pradhana state. And now to make it khichdi, what you have to do? You have to put it water in the, put all the ingredients in the vessel, put water and put it on stove. Will that happen immediately? No, you have to on the stove. You have to put the fire. And when the fire starts, this is a fire is similar to time in our material creation. So when you start the fire, the vessel starts boiling, they are getting heat, and the water will be getting boiled, and then the process starts cooking the khichdi. Same thing. So in the material nature also, in the pradhana state, there was no material modes, but when the time is coming into the induced into the material nature, the time is similar to fire, the light, stove, right? So the fire starts getting more and more, it's heating, the play vessel and everything, is also time starts progressing. Then the khichdi, after some time, it takes some time, and then the khichdi will be manifested. Same thing, after some time, the pradhana, the mahatattva will produce different living entities, the living material elements to create the material. So this is how the Prabhu gave a nice material example where different ingredients, how it was there before on switch on the stove, and after switch on the stove, you make the khichdi, how it is transformed. Same thing, the material universe is pradhana to mahatattva is getting transformed. So in summary, these 24 elements are there before manifestation, before glancing the material nature. Those 24 elements are not existed in the pradhana state, but after glance is done, the material time is introduced, the 24 elements are created, it became mahatattva. Now, this is a brief, we can understand from the process, from this one, in this verse context, we can understand how this material universe is getting created. Now the next one is, the Prabhupada was mentioning some of the key aspects we can take from this verse is, the important takeaways, this material universe is producing different varieties of elements, but it is not happening on its own by glance of Supreme Lord. So the Supreme Personality of Godhead is behind the material creation, is there. Because in some people in the modern world, what they think? The material universe is like you are in this material world, your purpose is to enjoy this material world. That's what people think. Okay, if you are not enjoying, people think that, okay, you are wasting your time. That is the modern understanding of the thing. But and then the next, our scientists also explain how this material universe is created. Like the Big Bang theory is there. It's initially the theory proposes, initially it is very small atom is there, tiny, small particle. Then that started expanding due to heat and density. And as it expands continuously, the blast happens. That is called Big Bang. And then after blast happened, so after some time, then it will be cooling down, and then you will see nice galaxies and nice universes formed. That is what the Big Bang theory is explaining. But from our scriptures, we can clearly describe how the material universe is getting created. So any destruction in our material senses, you see, if any destruction happens, can we see any nice items produced out of destruction? If you hit any big, you take any that vessel or anything, you put it on the ground and you break it, what will happen? It will completely get into pieces or cut it into, it will broken into pieces or something, shape will change, anything. Similarly, how like the big small particle it becomes big and it will expand and it will produce nice things. It's easy to comprehend. It's difficult to comprehend how it can happen, right? So, but in our scriptures clearly detail the process how the material universe is getting created. And not only this verse, in our Bhagavad Gita also, it is clearly mentioned, like, Maya Jakshina Prakriti Suyate Sa Characharam. Krishna in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he is mentioning that Maya Jakshina Prakriti. I am the Adjaksha, I am the superintendent of Prakriti, which manifests Suyate Sa Characharam. Chara Acharam means moving and non-moving living beings created in this, manifested in this Prakriti. Who is a superintendent of this? Maya, I am. Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna is the behind there. I am the in my control only. All these things are getting created. So this is what Krishna is mentioning in the Bhagavad Gita. So the Supreme Lord is there behind it, but actual maintenance will be done by material energy. But the basic is that He is there behind the creation. Because of His will, His potency only, this is getting created. But finally, the material energy will take care of the maintenance part. And in other verses also, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna was mentioning, I am the seed-giving father. Right, Krishna meant same thing. So when he is glancing the material nature, that is what he is mean to. When he is glancing the material nature, he is impregnating all the living entities. That is what same thing is mentioning it. So how the Krishna's, the Supreme Personality of Godhead role, we can understand in the material creation. Like one material example is there. Suppose you are going in the park. There are the nice flowers there. And nice aroma is coming from the flower. So your smelling power from your body is catching that aroma and it is giving you the nice smell. But in fact, this smelling power, whatever you have, it's not attached to that flower. Right? It's both are separate. And the smell is not trying to associate with the flower. But what it is doing, when you are passing through it, the smell it is capturing and giving you. The same way, here, Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, even though he is glancing the material nature, he is creating the material world, but he doesn't have any he will not have any impact on him. So he is separate from this material creation. He is aloof from the material creation. So, why Supreme Personality of Godhead is creating this material world? That is another reason we need to understand what is the aim of this creation. So, because we all know the living entities, like we have the karma, like when he is glancing the material nature, he is impregnating the living entities into the material prakriti nature. But who are these living entities? These living entities are the people who wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna. So when they have a desire to enjoy separately from Krishna, and there is a separate platform required to fulfill their desires. This is where the material universe is created. So what is ultimate objective of creating this material universe is, yes, they will get a platform to enjoy, to fulfill this desire, but at the end, they will come back to his abode. They will be coming back to his abode and they will be again staying with Krishna. That was the expectation. So how but Krishna's anticipation is, you have the Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. So when a living being coming into this big material universe, he will follow the religious things, Dharma, and whatever activities he does, and he will get some money. That Artha, he will get some money, Artha, and with that Artha, he will try to fulfill the desires, and that is what Kama, he will fulfill all the material desires. Once he fed up with the desires, then he will start renouncing these things. He will looking back to God. So that is the object in anticipation Krishna is having when he is creating this material nature. And then you will be, so people will, once they fed up with this material sense enjoyment and disturbance caused by these material senses, then they will be looking for the Krishna, then they will take the path of spirituality and they will come back to Godhead. But if you don't use this process, what will happen? When the annihilation happens, we all go back to, we will merge in the Mahavishnu state, and then again, after some time, when the new universe is getting created, then all the living entities will be impregnated into this material nature. That is how the process works. So the aim of the creation, unlike material, suppose a person, male and female, are enjoying in the material universe, their aim is to enjoy that, right? But here, the Prakriti and Purusha, when the Mahavishnu is glancing the Prakriti, the aim and creating the material universe, the aim is to provide a platform for the living entities. They will enjoy this material world. Finally, they'll come back to Godhead. So this is the main aim of the purpose of the material universe creation. And the next, here also in this verse, it is touched about the Kala. time factor. So whenever the time starts coming, the things, the three modes of material nature interacting with each other, and it is causing all the creation of material elements. Now, Kala, in how this, the Kala, the time factor is there only in the material universe. For Krishna, it doesn't have any impact. It is a Kala, is time is a representation, manifestation of Krishna, but it is not having any impact on Krishna. And it's so it's the feature of Krishna, we can say, but it is not impacting anything on Krishna. So in the material universe only, the time factor is coming into the picture. So one of the impact of the time is, it is a destructive factor. It will destroy everything. Like we can say, how we can understand some material examples. So we are not the body, we are the spirit soul is there. But the spirit soul cannot be destroyed. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly saying, Nayanam chindanti shastrani, nayanam dati pavaka, right? The soul cannot be cut into pieces, soul cannot be burned, right? So that is the nature of soul. But the human material body is subject to deteriorate, right? So when we say, when the person takes birth, his body is very small. After some time, he become a kid. He will become a youth. His body transforming it, right? How? As the time progress, our body is changing. And finally, at the end, you will become old, you will leave this body. So this is how the time factor is contributing to your body material things. So time in this material world is a destructive factor. So it will destroy as time progress, all the material things will be destroyed. So not only that, if we read in a Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, where we understand, like the Brahma span is there, 100 years. That is also impacted by time. In a day of Brahma, 14 Manus are there. Each Manu will have a 71 Chaturvyas. Okay, one Chaturvya is like 4 yugas. Satya Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga and Kali Yuga. So such 4 Chaturvyas in 71 times. So each Manu. So everything is time bound. Each Manu will be there for 71 Chaturvyas. And after that, at the end of the Brahma day, complete partial annihilation happens. And then next day again, new Manus will be starting, right? So in this material world, everything is time bound, and everything is like a destructive. It is one of the destructive factor of this material world, time. How the time we see, it impacts in our material world. The next thing is, time creates the fearfulness, right? How we can understand this? So in this material world, we see the impact of time in past, present and future. Like, so sometimes we think, like, if you see the current situation, there is a war happening between Russia and Ukraine, right? That is impacting so many, globally, economically, it is having severe impact. So, and many companies started to get the profits in the current difficult situation. What some companies are doing? Many companies are starting doing layoffs. Suppose if you are employee one of that companies, what will happen? You will start thinking about your future. After 2 months, after 3 months, what would be my future? How should I fulfill my obligations, right? This is what the factor of time. Time creates the fearful thing. You always worry about your future, and you will start thinking about, okay, how should I plan my things? By having some fearful factor in your mind, with that, you will be thinking that how should I manage? Same way, suppose it's some mistake you did in the past, and you will start thinking that, how this, knowingly, unknowingly, you did some mistake. And then you will start thinking how this mistake will impact in future. So you all see past, present and future. This is a time factor. So time, as long as you are in this material body, you are identifying with you in the material body, then this time will create a fear in you, right? This is the impact of time. So only way is you come out of the impact of this time, all the material elements. You understand that you are not the body, you are the soul. When you think like that way, then you will be coming out of this fearful. Whether you will be coming out of the destructive factor, even though it annihilates, you will not have an impact. Or even though if it is creating the fearful situation, you will not be having any impact, because you are coming out of those modes and you will be in a spiritual platform. Next is, I think previously many speakers were discussing on this verse, like why we need to, like in the beginning of before this chapter, it was a devotional service. It was explained, glories of devotional service. But now suddenly, Kapila Muni was started explaining Sankhya philosophy, how it is connected to our devotion. The purpose is devotional service. When Devahuti was asking, how can I come out of this material disturbances? The thing he communicated is devotional service. When you devotional service, you will be coming out of this disturbances. But suddenly he jumped into this material Sankhya philosophy and how this thing is connected. We can understand that as well with the example. So first we need to understand in which context Kapila Muni was saying. As I explained, so Devahuti was asking the question, and for that question, in response to her question, Kapila Muni said devotion is the process. What is a devotion? In the devotion, you need to fix your mind on Krishna. And when you fix your mind on Krishna and you perform devotional service, you will be able to come out of the disturbances. But we all understand how difficult it is to focus mind on Krishna constantly. Right? Even in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna, Arjuna himself, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, pramate balavad dridam. Right? The mind is flickering and agitating, right? It's very hard to fix mind on Krishna for longer duration. Maybe 1 minute we can keep and again we get distraction so many times, right? It's very hard to keep focus on Krishna all the time. But to perform devotional service, that is a key thing. You have to fix your mind on Krishna. But simply by thinking that, okay, I have to fix my mind on Krishna, you cannot do that. Like example I can say, suppose you are very much interested in doing a medical profession, you want to do surgery. Having the desire, it will not help you to do the surgery, right? Same thing, if you want to focus on Krishna, you have to focus on thinking that it will not help you to focus on Krishna. You need to get how the doctor, what he does, if you have a desire to perform surgery, if you want to become a doctor, you need to get the required skills. Right? You need to get the required skills. Then you will be able to do any surgery. You will be able to treat patients. Same thing, having the material desire is not enough. You need to understand how since you are not able to focus mind on Krishna, what is causing this distraction? Why this distraction is coming? Why I am not able to focus on Krishna? When you try to, how you can understand this Sankhya philosophy, this material universe creation will help you, because in the process it is clearly explained that all the material sense elements are created when the predominant mode is ignorance. And when the ignorance status is there, and all the material elements are created. And when you got the body, which having the material senses, which are created with our interaction of three modes of material. Obviously, three modes will be acting on you. Because of when you understand all these things, then you will understand, okay, these three modes are acting on me. Because of that, I am not able to focus. Then you will be your spiritual master or some senior devotee will tell, okay, you are getting so much disturbance because of this. Then you may need to do sadhana in the morning. Then you will understand why the morning time is required. Morning is mode of goodness state. Morning, Brahma Muhurta and all other state time it's a mode of goodness. When you do in the mode of goodness sadhana, you will be coming out of the effect of these modes gradually. So you will all understand this. When if someone is giving some recommendation, you will understand. If the spiritual master is telling that, okay, do in the morning sadhana, you will be able to understand when you understand this creation process, because these modes are impacting me. To get out of this material modes, spiritual master is suggesting to do it in this morning sadhana, seriously. Then you will understand, you will take it seriously. So this knowledge helps any blockages in your spiritual progress. You will understand any blocker is coming in on your way, you will understand the reason why this is happening, and then you will be able to come out of this impact of this that disturbance, and you will be able to progress. This is one reason. And another reason we can think it, suppose in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentioned, you are not the body, we are not the body, we are soul. And then also mentioned, Devi Yesha Gundamamayi Mamamaya Duruttaya, right? So this material world is my divine energy. This Maya, it is very difficult to overcome. What we have to do? Maya, we have to surrender to Krishna, then you will be able to cross over this material nature. And then also Krishna told, first he told, we are not the body, we are soul, and we have to surrender to Krishna to come out of this material modes. And then he said, Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Abandon all varieties of things and surrender unto me. And he also described about spiritual world. Spiritual world is the world where there will be no miseries. And you will be, once you go there, you will never come back, right? After telling all these things, Krishna also mentioned, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapajate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. What it means? Still, Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. After giving all these instructions in the Bhagavad Gita, where you have to surrender to Krishna, spiritual world is misery, you will not have any miseries. Once you go there, you will not come back. But after telling all those things also, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna saying, Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. It's very rare to see the person who says, Krishna is everything. Very few people are there in this material world who believe this philosophy, who follow this philosophy, who understand this philosophy, who is reading this philosophy. What is the reason? Why people are not able to, after these many instructions given in the Bhagavad Gita, people are not following this. The reason, people, the Prabhupada mentioned in various verses, right? There are different grades of people available in this material nature. The different grades means some people are impacted by goodness. Some people are impacted by passion. Some people again impacted by ignorance. So when these different grade of people having a different mentality. Some people are easily accepting the philosophy. Some people will challenge the philosophy. Some people will completely reject the philosophy, right? So these are the different grades of people we can see in the material. This, when we understand the creation of the material process, then we will understand why the different varieties of people there in this material world and why they are not happening. So if you want to preach them, then you have to find the right medicine. So if the doctor is there, if the patient is coming with a particular disease, then you need to diagnose the disease and give the proper medicine. Similarly, when you are doing the preaching, when you are going for preaching any outside world, the different people will be coming in front of you. So when you understand the nature of the person with whom you are speaking, then you will be able to use the right approach to bring into the Krishna consciousness. So all this summary is, this knowledge is helping you to develop your own devotion, and to preaching purpose also we can help, where we can understand the people nature through this process. This Sankhya philosophy gives us an idea what kind of people the opposite person is, whether he is impacted by goodness, passion, ignorance, and how he is behaving. Based on that, we can give appropriate action to bring him into the Krishna conscious path. So this is the overall summary of this I wanted to convey through this verse. Any comments? Any? Yes, Prabhu.
Just referring to the above, isn't material nature always by default embedded with the three modes? Like if you look at the purport, it says that, Prabhupada says, before the agitation, material nature remains in the neutral state without interaction by the three modes of material.
Yes.
I thought material nature already has the three modes, right?
Yes, the three modes are there, but those are not active. Those are not in active state. They active means they will interact with each other and start producing the different varieties.
Our material nature,
It's not active. Whenever the Krishna, Mahavishnu is glancing over it, then the time is into, then it will start getting activated. That is the pradhana state is the same thing, where the modes are not active. That is the pradhana, unmanifested material entities. As soon as these modes are activated, the manifestation starts. So that's the reason the pradhana state is unmanifested material entities, where because the three modes are not active. Yeah, it's there. Yeah. So that's why when the Mahavishnu is glancing, the ingredients added are living entities, kala, karma, and swabhava. They are not talking about, he's not inducing material modes through light. It's already there in that, but they are inactive.
So, on one end we are saying it's the glance of the Mahavishnu, but on the other end we are saying that the impregnation in the form of the time factor. So, is it actually the time factor which is causing, or the glance?
So the glance introduces time, from there it starts. Mahavishnu, when glancing the material nature, the time is induced into along with other entities. Then the time begins, like the example, that's our Adipurush Prabhu example I was mentioning, khichdi. Once you start stove, then cooking starts. Before that, all the ingredients are there, but khichdi was not manifested, right? Once you on the stove, you put the lit up the fire, then it starts cooking, and then you will see the khichdi outcome, right? That the fire is similar to the time here. In the
So glance itself activates the time factor,
yes,
which actually impregnates.
yes, it induces the time factor. Then the time takes over all the creation process. It starts. So that's why the material creation is completely bound by the time, right? If you see, we are only live for a maximum 100 years, and Brahma's age is 100, and each Manu is everything is time bound. Right? As soon as once the material creation comes, everything is time-bound factor. Once the time is passed, like one day of Brahma is finished, all the 14 manus gone. Next day again, fresh new 14 manus will come. Right? So that is the time factor. We can understand.
So the souls, the individual souls are also created at this time of this glance?
Yeah, because the individual source, it will be impregnated, infused into the material nature. Because, it will be created when he glancing, all the living entities will be going into he will be impregnated into the material nature.
But the soul is eternal, right?
Yeah, soul is there. It's not creating. The soul is there. It is there in, suppose it's in dormant state. Like suppose it is in dormant state in the Mahavishnu when he impregnates, and then the living entities will be induced into the material nature. That's why it is mentioned when he is impregnating, he is into the living entities, into the material nature. Then swabhava comes, karma comes. The past karmas and his nature, behavior, everything will be induced into this material nature.
So the dormant soul gets the karma from the glance?
Not karma. No. See, like.
But the dormant soul has past karma.
Okay, past karma. Because how? Suppose we are in this world now, in this cycle. So once material annihilation happens, you will be go back to the dormant state, and then when again next time it is impregnated, it will be coming into the material nature. Then your past karma, everything will be induced.
So does it mean that the mind, intelligence, false ego, and the soul, at the end of the annihilation, if it doesn't get liberation, these four things go and sit in Mahavishnu? Is that the way?
See, the soul carries the impression. The mind, intelligence, false ego, again it's a subtle body.
Yes.
So, right? It's a material. Right? So the soul only carries these impressions and karma, whatever.
So direction.
Yeah.
Mahavishnu.
Yeah.
Prabhu, the other thing is, in this specific shloka, Kapiladeva stressed on the time factor, saying that the time factor is the supreme personality of Godhead, the translation says. I was just wondering, how are the other 24 elements of Sankhya philosophy? Are they not supreme personality of Godhead anyway? In the sense that, if we refer to Bhagavad Gita 10th chapter, Krishna actually says that, yes, I'm actually mind, I'm the senses, etc., etc. So, all the 25 elements, including the time factor, is the supreme personality of Godhead anyway.
See, it's energy of, you can take it as the energy of Krishna. These are material energy. See, all these elements, like the material elements are created by the material energy. Material energy is Krishna's energy. Right? That way you see the connection. So, Krishna's energy, all these elements are part of Krishna's energy.
My question is there any reason why the time factor is highlighted as only the supreme personality of Godhead and not the other 22 elements?
So I think I'm not very clear on that, but my understanding is time factor is playing a key role in this entire process, now, unlike other elements, right? So that's why specifically highlighting that could be the reason, but I'm not clear, I'm not sure.
Because I was actually confused when Bhagavad Gita clearly says that I'm the mind, I'm the senses, etc. There he is saying, like here it's only saying, it appears to me, to my limited understanding, that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is only the time factor and not the other factor.
See, that's what other elements are is energy. Like it's like material energy is creating. But even 11th chapter also Krishna mentioning, right? Is I am the Kala, right? So Krishna, that is clearly in multiple places it is mentioned. I am the Kala. Krishna is the man. Kala is the man. Time is the manifestation of Krishna. So that is and that is guiding complete material nature. Is bound by the time factor, right? So, but if all other elements are like the energy, like it's a part of material energy created by. But when you see the relatively, this time is playing important factor. So that's why he's highlighting the time. That could be another my.
So the glance actually agitates the time.
No, they don't say the time. It agitates the nature, and as part of that.
Medium of time. Can you say that?
See, it's not a medium of time. We cannot say. See, he impregnates everything. When he glances, he put all these things into the material nature. Actually, there is another technical philosophy is there. We will not go into this, but when you glance it, actually the Shiva is actually the person who in the material nature. The glancing leads to the Shiva, and the Prakriti is Durga. That is where that thing is the actual thing. I don't want to go into and confuse them, but I am. That is.
That's what Rajanath Prabhu was touching the week before last
Yeah.
Friday.
Yes.
He was saying that the trident of Durga, that's actually the material nature, three modes of material nature. And he was saying that Shiva is actually the God.
Yeah, Shiva is coming into the picture. That is where the glance is leading to the Shiva. That's why Shiva is Krishna. Shiva and Krishna are not same, but it's like the Prabhupada. Yeah, is an agent of Krishna. Like Prabhupada gave the example of yogurt and milk. From the milk you can make yogurt. So yogurt still it's a dairy product, but not milk, right? So both are not. Yogurt is a dairy product, right? It's coming through milk, but both are not same. Like that, Shiva is an agent of Krishna. Is actually in the material nature. He is performing this activity, but he's not Krishna. That's we can say.
I think that actually clears it up because Mahavishnu glancing
Yeah.
the material nature,
Yeah.
which is actually Durga Devi, and Shiva.
Shiva is there. Yes.
So as you mentioned, like Purusha and Prakriti, it actually gets impregnated as Prabhupada mentioned.
Yes.
An example at the end of the Prabhupada.
Yes.
So I think that connection makes more sense.
Yeah. So actually, I'm not trying to go into that detail. That will confuse me. I think that's why I'm trying to avoid only sticking to the purport. Anything, Prabhu? Yeah. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.
The sequence of these 25 elements will be described further in the chapters.
Yeah.
Like how they appeared one by one, or
I think
which comes first, then the sequence.
I think it will be there. I did check that.